What a joy that you have found us for this podcast. How exciting it is to think that this spiritual message is going out to people around this planet. Whether your life is working at a peak level or whether it can use some enhancement, have I got the message for you today. So get a piece of paper, get ready to take notes, call a friend, have them watch this podcast also. Then you too can have something to talk about and take it to a deeper level. So enjoy. Here we go. Hey, good morning, Seaside. What a joy it is to be here today with you on a fabulous day, a day in which we have been taking a look at the timeless truths for transformation. Today's is about the flow, and my goodness, what a perfect song for flow. That haven't you heard? Haven't you heard? You are that light of the universe. You are the bread. You are the wine. And when you know that, that is what you have to share with this world. When you come to recognize what it is you are, this is what you get to bring to life. Not what you don't have. It's what you do have. That is what is to flow forth from you and out to the universe and the world around you. And when you're in that place of flow, it comes back to you. It's called the law of circulation, but I like the word flow. And since I wrote the foundation class for this movement, it is one of our core concepts, flow, instead of circulation, just because it's... And it's just, when you're in that place, it's coming back. You give here and boom, 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 it comes back here. You know, we're dealing with that which is omnipresent, is everywhere. And so as you share and flow that which you are here, what comes back to you is here, 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 in all areas of your life. When it's real, when it's relevant, when you need something particular. I can remember when Callie and I went to the show when they were first bringing it out and testing it, Jersey Boys, when they brought it out at La Jolla. It was a number of years ago. You may remember it, the Frankie Valli story. And we had tickets. I guess it was probably opening night tickets. And we got there and they, checked the tickets. They let us in and we walked in and there were people sitting in our seats. And, we didn't want to make a scene because that's not the right polite thing to do. And so I said, there's a couple of seats over there right in the center. Why don't you sit there until, somebody needs them or something. And so we sat down in these fantastic seats. And what we noticed on our tickets is our tickets were really for opening night, but opening night was tomorrow, and today was the preview of what was coming up. And so they had the press in there, and who was sitting literally right in front of us was Frankie Valli himself, watching the premiere of his show, crying through it, just watching, the story. Oh my goodness, talk about being in the flow. I couldn't have planned that, couldn't have gotten better seats if I tried to buy them for that premiere, and yet there we were. It is amazing when you're in that place, and you're not thinking about yourself and not thinking about what can I get back, but I'm just listening to my heart and being present and in that flow. Alex is a professional mountain climber. I mean, the kind that goes on expeditions to the Himalayas, the Patagonias. And he shares a story of on one expedition, they were about 6 hours from the summit. They had been doing this for quite some time. And a storm had moved in, a horrendous storm. And as they proceeded, it turned into a blizzard. The winds and the ice just cutting their face. And every step is just a labor because of the altitude. It's difficult to breathe. And they were moving forward. And they found, which I guess sometimes people who didn't make it on the side, and there was this one guy just lying there, and the party said, we've got to move on. And Alex said, but this guy could use some help. And they said, Alex, if you stop, you will die. You will probably join him. And he said for them to go on. So he went down with the guy, and the guy was not quite dead. I guess it's like, it's almost as if you go to sleep, and there was a faint heartbeat. And so Alex started massaging him, rubbing his hands, rubbing his face, getting the blood moving, and the guy came to, and he was able to assist him down the mountain to the base camp. And when Alex and the guy were checked by the doctor said to Alex, do you know, you probably did more than just saved his life, because your limbs, your arms and your legs are showing the first signs of frostbite. And had you proceeded a couple more hours, it would have set in and you would never have been able to return down that mountain. Talk about being in the flow, listening to that which is in your heart. That may not be the wisest choice, but yet it is the right choice. When you're in the flow, you're listening. You're not judging. You're not doubting. You're saying, yes, use me, Spirit. What a great song for today. Use me, Spirit. One of the classic American stories about just just being in that flow, 75 years old. It comes from the Olympic Games of 1936 when I was in Berlin, Germany. Hitler is in power. He is in control. He is working on creating the Aryan race, and the African Americans in the Olympics did not please him at all. And there we had, just leading the pack, was Jesse Owens. Jesse Owens had won 3 gold medals and was now vying for a 4th gold medal in the long jump, which was just his thing. And the crowd they were angry, they were booing, they were jeering him, and it was starting to play in on his psyche. They were starting to play on his mind. And here he'd go, he ran his first one and he jumped, and the judges said he faulted. Whether he faulted or not, that's what they said. And so as the anger from the crowds is getting in on him, he did his second jump and he faulted again. And he only had one more attempt. And the German sports hero of their nation, Lutz Long, went over to Jesse in front of Hitler and tens of thousands of people. And here's Jesse wondering, does this guy hate me also? And put his arms around him. Said, Jesse, you only need to jump 23 feet to qualify. You jump 26 feet all the time. Just jump 3 inches before the line, and no one can fault you for that. And Jesse went ahead and did that, and he just flew and he qualified. I was like, wow, that's obvious. It came down to the finals, and Lutz was now in first, and Jesse only had one more jump left. He had faulted on the first 2. And he went ahead and set a world record, jumping the farthest he had ever done, winning the gold medal from Germany's sports hero of ever. And you know, the first one who came over to Jesse to say congratulations was Lutz Long himself. He went over and said, great job, Jesse. And what Jesse Owens would tell afterwards is that you could take all of his medals, all of his trophies, and you could melt them down, and they wouldn't even begin to plate 24-karat relationship that he felt, the friendship he felt from Lutz Long, who went ahead and ended up dying during World War II. But you see, you're making an impression when you're in that flow, and when you're giving and you're caring, you're making that impression that is a lifelong kind of thing. And when you are caring about somebody, when you're taking the time to touch their heart and their soul, you don't know how long it's going to last. So you may touch somebody and they may be remembering it for years. They may be remembering it for the rest of their life. 50 years from now, a little child whose life you were in may be remembering that time you took with them. I got to tell you, on my iPhone security check, one of the questions they asked me is, who is your favorite teacher? Which obviously means the majority of the people can remember their favorite teacher. Do you remember one of yours? Yes and no. Okay, well, they don't have it totally right, but what's more important is not the legacy you leave for someone, but rather the legacy you leave in them. And ooh, that was good. First service didn't get that. You know, it's being in that flow. It is caring. It is being in the present moment. Whether somebody's on the side of the road and you need to help them down from the mountaintop or the difficulty, or just taking a moment with a child, or just telling somebody how special they are in your life, it makes a difference. But all of a sudden, what begins to happen sometimes is doubt begins to slip in. Imagine if Lutz said, I don't think I'm going to be appreciated for doing this. When doubt begins to move in, it begins to swirl within your mind. It's like a vortex. It's a tornado that just begins to pick up speed. It begins to, it begins to just feed on itself and flying. It's called a death spiral. It just, down you go. And the thing with doubt I want us to get and understand is it's natural. Doubt is natural. It is natural for it to show up, to creep up, to grab our awareness, say, hey, look at me. Are you sure you got what it takes? Or whatever it is you are doubting, it is a natural state. But what you get to do is begin to not identify with it. As you identify with it, you give it power. As you begin to say, hey, there's doubt. Whoa, isn't that interesting? You begin to recognize that, you know what, there's something going on here, but I'm not going to give my power to it. I'm going to be outside the doubt. And as you begin to be outside the doubt, you can say, who is it that's doubting here? If I'm outside the doubt and I'm observing the doubt, and I'm looking at the doubt, which is kind of a meditative practice, you begin to say, wow, it kind of comes and it goes. It rises and it goes away. But what happens is we allow the frustration to get in there. We allow the frustration to to show up and say, but this isn't what I wanted. I wanted it quicker. I wanted results faster in my life. I want, the frustration comes when I have an expectancy, when I have an attachment to it. I'm not in the flow. When you're in the flow, okay, what comes, it goes. It rises, it goes away. When you have an attachment, you're stopping the flow. And that's where the frustration comes in. Yeah, it's like, oh, I can't push through this. The frustration, this is how I want it. I've worked with enough people on the spiritual path, say, Christian, I have lit so many candles, in my life. I've burnt so much incense. I have fasted. And you know what? It's not coming. It's like I would do it, but God's not speaking to me. I don't know what to do. God does not show up on demand. What you've got to do is be in the flow. You've got to surrender. You've got to trust. You've got to be willing to realize it comes and it goes. And it's as you make yourself receptive to the flow of life, to be that avenue, that channel through which it flows, you will begin to know. You'll begin to see. I shared a story with the practitioners, had a retreat yesterday, and shared a story of a lady who had a mystical experience. She was out looking at the stars, and she felt as if she was wrapped in a blanket of stars. The universe noticed her, adored her, loved her, empowered her, and then she had to come back. And that's a shock, after you've been in the present. And then she came back, and she thought her life would now be perfect. She had this great mystical moment. Yeah. And she was still in a body that was overweight and in pain. And it's like, come on, God, what was the purpose of giving me this if you're not going to make my body thin and I can eat all I want and still stay thin and not have pain? It was only as she could surrender her frustration for not getting the outcome she wanted that she began to realize that, you know what? I am noticed in the universe. I am wrapped in this amazing blanket of spirit. But we've got to be willing to be in the flow and not be attached to what it is, to be in the flow and trust where it is I'm guided, not to buy into the fear and the concern that it's not happening the way in which I want to be there, to be able to move through that fear. Actually, that's the only way you get through fear, is to get through it. You can't think yourself around the fear. I would like this to go away, and I just want to walk around it, not through it. Flow is going through. Yes, we've got our place in Montana, and you sit outside at night, and you look at the stars, and absolutely could understand how this one woman could be embraced in the blanket of stars. And my head starts going back to Westerns and all those cowboys and mountain men who live out in the forest where I'm at. And they sleep on the ground and they don't fear any animals are going to get them. The Native Americans, the first people of our nation, they lived out there. They didn't have a Ritz-Carlton to move in. There was no concern. Candace told me she did tent camping through the mountains of the United States several times, and she was never eaten by critters. And there I am sitting outside by a campfire alone at night, listening to the wolves howl over here in this ravine, and the coyotes howl over there in that ravine, and the cackles showing up on the back of my neck, and thinking, whoa, this is... I want to walk in the woods. It's a full moon. It's a beautiful sky. But when the fear begins to take over, those wolves and coyotes, which have distinctively different howls, I'll assure you, I'm sure they're not in the ravines over there, that they are about ready to pounce on me any second. And now the only way I can get through this fear is I can't walk around and go in the house and say, oh, I don't fear anymore. The only way I can do it is begin to walk down our driveway and off into the trees and begin to surrender to that fear. And what happens for me, anyways, is the concept of the grizzly bears out picking up on my scent, thinking I would make a nice midnight snack for them. And so there it is. I get to choose in the moment. Do I want to go with the flow, which is far greater than my fear? And the only way is to move out into the woods at night alone and be able to move through the fear. And the fear at this point is hypnotic. It makes those animals seem a lot closer. I start to practice affirmations in reverse. They are not eating me. They're not going to eat me. They're not going to eat me. They're not going to eat me. And it becomes constrictive. The heart feels palpitating, like it's heart attack, cold sweat. But moving through it all of a sudden, when I allow that flow of life, when I remove my blockage, when I remove my doubts, when I remove my fear, when I remove my frustration, that flow of life begins to go through me. And what happens is an ease. What happens is a joy. What happens is a courageousness. What happens is an aliveness. What happens is I begin to see the beauty of the stars and the moon and the towering trees and smell that fragrance and know that I'm one with my brother bear and sister wolves, or whatever that saying is, that I am part of this natural scene because I am part of the flow of life, not dinner. Where do you allow your imagination to take you? Where do you give your emotions free rein? And how do you impede it because of your fears or your doubts? We have a son, Trevor, who has a wonderful imagination. He had a book that had a title that became his mantra of what he wanted in life. And it was called, Mom, can I have a Stegosaurus? And Trevor would go around saying, Mom, can I have a Stegosaurus, please? And it's like, Trevor, where would we keep it? What would we feed it? Hey, they're not even around anymore. I couldn't even buy you one if I want. And I could go into this approach, or I could say, hey, that's a wonderful idea. We just can't do that now. And rather than saying no, he said, that's wonderful, but just not now. He says, hey, Dad, let's go to Disneyland. And rather than saying no and shutting him down, yeah, sounds good. We'll do that another day. Yeah, sounds good. We'll just do that another day. I'm tucking him at bed at night. He says, Dad, can I have that white Ford 150 pickup truck, 4-door crew cab with 4-wheel drive? And rather than saying no, he said, yeah, in Dreamland you can do that. And so, rather than impeding the flow, rather than stopping it and denying it, is how can you support that flow of life without bringing the negativity into it, without bringing scarcity into it, without bringing lack into it? What can you do that just honors where it is you are? And the reason it is so important is because that child of my mind, I assure you, likes to say, hey, Christian, what about this? What about that? Hey, I've got the child of me has these desires. Like, I want enlightenment. Good idea, Christian, but just maybe not in this moment, I want to feel that oneness. Yeah, it's a great plan. It's like, am I able to do it? But we just fight. We just fight so hard for what it is that I want, forgetting that, what? Everything that's going on in my life is an integral part or a piece of a greater picture that I may not know. And if I'm living in the flow, if I'm living in a sense of trust, then I can begin to live with a sense that somehow it's playing in. Joseph and his brothers sold him into slavery. You know that story, and how it turned out good. What's going on in my life? I don't know how it's going to bless me later, but I fight for my position. I've got to trust. I got to go with that flow and let it take me where it will. But what happens is we try, I'm going to force my position. I'm just going to try another modality of healing to make it happen. This week I had a chance to address our people at the mayor's prayer breakfast, and Mr. Sylvester was there with his wonderful support. Rich is one of the pillars of our church and the town with Dima, and one of the stories that I shared with the town, trying to force our position and trying the different modalities, is I pointed out all the fabulous modalities our town offers in addition to the best medical offerings in the nation. We also have a vast array of other ways of healing. Not that any of these am I professing to do or making wrong. I just, from doing classes and asking people, hey, what different approaches to healing have you used? I shared the list, and we've tried. Here it is. We've tried acupuncture, past life regression, and all of us our fair share of therapists and counselors. We have worked with our inner child, our anger, our inner critic, and if that didn't work, we tried some erotic dance. We have worked with chanting and visioning and meditating and affirming our way through our pain. And when that didn't happen, we sought the advice of nutritionists, life coaches, personal trainers, yoga teachers, gurus. And if that didn't work, we'd find an internist to prescribe some Prozac to us. We have cleansed our chakras. We have sniffed essential oils. We have burnt candles. We have laid down in energetically balanced mineral baths while listening to harmonically balanced music, burning imported incense from India. Yes, and if that didn't work, then we would try wearing amulets, putting magnets under our bed, moon rings on our fingers, flipping tarot cards, chakra cards, having our charts read, orbs and auras read. And if that didn't work, then some even try marrying an ultra-rich partner or a pretty young one. And there are a lot of approaches out there. That's to name just a few. But what I want us to realize is that if we can get out of that judgmental place of trying to make it the way I want it and surrender to the flow of life. And the only way you're going to be willing to surrender to that flow is if you trust it. And your God or your higher power is not a judgmental, wrathful kind of expression, but it is a life force, it is a love, it is an order. And when you begin to move beyond judgment, and the thing with judgment, if you've got judgment going on, and we get judgment, there's nothing wrong with taking it into your meditation and looking at it and seeing, what is it I'm judging? And once again, watch it come and watch it go, and recognize that you are not bound by what it is you're judging. You can choose to do something different than the pack is doing. If they're moving in a direction, you feel you need to stay in this particular moment because that flow or that heart or that essence says so. I don't need to have my intellectual understanding of it. I can say yes to that. And I can move with that. But the only way you become familiar is if you take time in that meditation place and observe it. And as you take time in meditation, it's not about who can sit there the longest becomes the wisest in meditation. I've seen chickens sit on eggs for days on ends. And I don't think they're the wisest of animals. Not that I tell them so, but it's being able to take this consciousness, this trust, this awareness into all the postures of your life. That means waking up in this awareness and this consciousness. It means going into your day, going to work, being in relationship with this kind of connectedness, and going back to that time of silence and the quiet mind, and going back and reconnecting and moving through the judgments and the fears and the doubts and the frustrations so you can cleanse, so you can flow, so you can be pure with what your gift is you have to share in this world. And as you share your gift, you become so much more richer. And so it is that continual cycle. It is the circulation that is life. There's this one lady asking this master teacher about meditation. She said, I have studied it, I'm reading it, and I continue to read the Buddhist approach, the Vipassana approach, and she would ask these intellectual questions, and the teacher finally said, well, wait a second. And do you have a regular meditation practice? And she said, no, I don't have time. I'm too busy reading about it. And he said, well, ma'am, it's like the woman who had a bunch of chickens in the chicken coop and goes around picking up the chicken poop instead of the chicken eggs, The meditation is the eggs. The meditation is the good. The meditation is that spirit. That meditation is what allows you to observe those blockages in your energetic field, in your consciousness. It is taking the time so you can once again be in that space that is pure and that flows. There's a wonderful story. It's been around a while about Shay. He's this 10-year-old boy who is mentally and physically challenged. But he loves baseball. I mean, that's his thing. He's got that mind. He's got the statistics. He knows his team. He knows his players. He's got that down. He loves baseball. And one day, his dad and him were walking, and they saw some boys about his age, maybe a little older, playing a pickup game of baseball in the park. And so his dad went over with Shay so they could watch, and Shay just got to say, Daddy, can I play too? Can I play baseball? And Dad's, well aware of his abilities, particularly compared, to the other kids, but he didn't want to disappoint the enthusiasm of his son. And so he asked one of the boys in the dugout, can, Shay play with you guys? Little boy, he didn't know what to do. He asked his friends. They finally said, yeah, that's okay. There's only 2 innings left. We're down by 3 runs. We'll put him in the outfield. And so they put him in the outfield. No balls come out there, right field for kids that age. And they came back, but all of a sudden that team came back. And here it is, the last inning. They're only down by 1 run. The tying run is on third base, and there's 2 outs. And it's Shea's turn to bat. Well, the kids want to win. They're going to put in a pinch hitter. But they thought about it and said, we can't do that to Shea. Just can't do that. So they let Shea go up there. And that pitcher on the other side, he was the best. And he just fired that ball past Shea so fast, he didn't even see it. He swung. He was a mile behind it. It was like, wow. They threw it back. And then the pitcher realized, there's a little bit of a challenge there. So what that pitcher did out of the goodness of his heart is he just, slowed it down, just kind of threw the ball half the speed. And Shea, with all his might, just swung his bat and just a mile behind it again. So what the pitcher did is he came down off the mound and he lobbed the ball as slowly as he could. And Shea, with all his determination, just swung that bat and he connected with the ball. And it went about 5 feet. Just kind of rolled down, just stopped in front of the pitcher. The pitcher bent over, picked up instinct, fired to first base. And as he was going to throw, he saw Shea running down the line in his awkwardness, and his heart took over. And so he threw the ball over the first baseman's head into outfield. Well, Dad is going berserk on the sidelines. He's going, run, Shea, run, Shea, run, Shea. And the tying run comes in from third base, and the kid in the outfield gets the ball, and Shea doesn't stop on first base. He's running now, and he's running around first base to second base with all of his might, and the guy in the outfield gets it, what's going on. So what the guy from the outfield does is he throws it over the shortstop's head, over second base, into the outfield, and the guy who's backing him up realizes what's happening as this kid's going to third base. He bends over and he lets the ball go between his legs. And now Shea's rounding third base, and everyone in the stands is up on their feet shouting, run, Shea, run, Shea, run, Shea. And this little kid runs across first home plate just with a smile, elated, filled with the gifts of friends and God. And his team won that day. Shea won that day. But I got to tell you, who were the biggest winners were those kids who created that experience that day and facilitated that flow for that experience to happen. I will assure you, Shea and everyone that was present on the field that day has one of those lasting memories 20 years, 40 years on down the line because they trusted the flow that was there. And so, as we think about the flow in our life, you're the one. You're the one. Yeah? The light of the universe. Just asking you to shine that with whoever's before you, even if it's not the moment you had planned or what you had expected. Don't let the frustration get the better of you, the fear get the better of you, the doubt get the better of you, because that's all judgment. What I want you to do is to rise outside of that and know that in the moment you are in, you have whatever it takes to be fully present, to be in the flow, and to give of yourself that will make a difference. So I want all of us to do that. And the challenge for you this week is to make every day a Shea day where you're given. God bless you. Again, a lot of heart and soul and passion. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am prosperous now. Hey, I trust you enjoyed that podcast. It was very exciting to be able to create that and to know that there are people like you all around the world that are observing and integrating these spiritual principles into their life. And so if you enjoyed it, what I'd like to do is encourage you to tell a friend or bring several friends together and watch another one of these podcasts. And then afterwards, take some time to talk about the spiritual principles, to talk about the stories and what significance they have and relevance they have in your life. What then happens is it moves to a deeper and deeper level in your world. It becomes real and assists you to create the freedom in your life that your heart and soul so desire. So if you like this, I encourage you to watch it again, but also tune into our website here at seasidecenter.org. There, you can get some of my written material and take a look at it. You can read some of my spiritual prayers. You can even go to our online bookstore and order some of the books. And if you're so moved, what I greatly would appreciate is your financial support, which you could do online at seasidecenter.org. It is support like yours that assists us to be able to continue to do these kinds of gifts for humanity and send it out to the world. Because you know what? We are making a difference with this spiritual message. And because of support like yours, people are being touched in the farthest reaches of this planet, as well as our backyard, more than we could ever begin to realize. So I thank you from the fullness of my heart for making a difference.